Hey, welcome to Life After Nursing School. I'm your host, Caroline Dana, aka Nurse Coach Caroline, and I'm here to help you, the new nurse, thrive in your career. As a former nurse recruiter, nurse manager, and now your personal new nurse career coach, I'm obsessed with making sure you don't just survive your first couple of years at the bedside. I want you to absolutely rock them. From the challenges to the triumphs, I'll be right here with you, giving you the real-world advice and support that you need to shine. Whether you're in nursing school getting ready for life after, or you're already out there in nurse life feeling overwhelmed or even questioning your confidence, I've got your back. I'll be sharing tips, tricks, resources, and strategies that are just for you. We'll dive into everything from landing that dream nursing job to slaying imposter syndrome, and most importantly, how to keep that spark alive and stay the vibrant and amazing nurse that you are. So if you're ready to tackle the things nursing school did not cover, like how to build a career, trust yourself, and keep your passion strong, then get comfortable because we are about to dive in and make nurse life the best life. Welcome back to the Life After Nursing School podcast. I'm so excited to see you today. Now, I'm really excited for today's episode because it's going to be a fun one. I want to share with you today 10 career hacks that can genuinely make bedside life better. And who doesn't want that? Some of these are simple. Some take a little bit more intention to implement. But when you do, your shift will feel smoother. Your career will feel more sustainable. And honestly, you will be happier. These are things that I learned the hard way over the years, and many of them came directly from other nurses as well. So think of this episode as a collection of big sister advice passed down from nurse to nurse. Okay, let's start with one that might sound basic, but trust me, it makes a huge difference. Pick up shifts strategically. Do not just pick up shifts to pick up shifts. Before you say yes, actually look at the schedule. Is your work bestie working that day? Can you stack your extra shift? Can you stack it onto a shift that you're already working? So maybe you just stay 4 additional hours instead of giving up an entire day off. That alone can even save your sanity. Working with your bestie automatically makes a hard shift so much more tolerable. And the vibes are better, the teamwork is better, the shift goes faster. And this honestly matters more than we sometimes admit. Working with our bestie isn't the only way to be strategic when we want to pick up shifts. If you get a call or a text from your manager because the unit's short or someone called out or whatever the reason may be, this is your reminder that you are always allowed to negotiate and not just pay. Okay, well, let's talk pay first. Yes, be sure to ask your manager if there is bonus pay or incentive pay associated with this shift. Typically, when they call to have you come into work or ask you to come in, they're desperate, right? But we need to know just how desperate. Now, sometimes pay is not negotiable, and that happens. But if money is off the table, guess what isn't? Time. You can negotiate time instead. I can't tell you how many times I agreed to pick up a shift in exchange for a guaranteed day off later. I've had Saturdays magically open up that I'd been trying to switch for weeks. I'd even gotten out of a holiday shift or two because the unit was so desperate for coverage that management was willing to make deals. This is not being difficult. This is being strategic and for your benefit. So here's the rule. If we're not working with our bestie, we're not getting extra pay, or we're not getting time off in return, then we're probably not going to do it. Be intentional with your energy. Your time off matters. And learning how to work the schedule instead of letting it work for you is one of the biggest bedside career upgrades that there is. Okay, hack number 2. Get your lunch before your actual break. Okay, this sounds silly, but it's a total game changer. Most of us work at facilities with limited cafeteria hours, okay? Or at the very least, very predictable peak times. I've worked at a small community hospital where the grill was only open from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. for lunch. And that same caf was closed completely by 6:30 p.m. And I also worked at a large hospital where food was pretty much available nearly 24/7. But no matter which environment you're in, this hack still applies. If you're planning to get something from the caf during your shift, do not wait until your actual lunch break to go get it. Instead, go before your break and go when you know the caf isn't that busy. Here's a real example from my own life as an ER nurse. When I worked day shift in the ER at a small community hospital, I would head to the caf right when the grill opened at 11 a.m. There was no line. I was off the floor for maybe 10 minutes, if that. I'd order my lunch, grab it, and head right back to the unit. Now, compare that to going during peak hours. If you wait until everyone else is on break, you're probably standing in line for 15 to 20 minutes. And let's remember, your lunch break is only 30 minutes in total. Half of your break is gone before you've even taken a bite of food. So here's the move. Get your patients settled. Tell a coworker that you're going to step off the unit briefly to grab food. Ask your coworker to keep an ear out for your patients. Take 10 minutes to run to the caf and grab your lunch. At that point, you're probably not starving, which is great because maybe then you'll even make better food choices if that matters to you. Once you've got your meal, you're going to stash it in the break room fridge and you're going to go back to work. For me, I usually took my actual lunch break around 1:30. So when that time rolled around, my food was already there. Maybe it needed a quick trip to the microwave, but that's nothing compared to standing in line and missing out on your break. So instead of spending half your break getting your food, you actually get to sit down, breathe, and enjoy a full 30 minutes of rest. And that alone can completely change how the second half of your shift feels. Okay, hack number 3. Find a quiet place to chart. This next one is another game changer. And I know I'm claiming that they're all game changers, but let me tell you, it took me a long time to put these into place. And when they did, it was so great. Chef's kiss. Okay, so especially this one's great if you're easily distracted or you're a procrastinator, someone who waits maybe to the end of the shift to chart and then just doesn't get it done. This hack is great. It's simple but powerful. Find a quiet place where you can chart. It could be an empty patient room on your unit. It could be the end of the hall. It could be a little nook or cranny that is on your unit, and wheel your computer there and chart. I've worked on a lot of different units, and almost every single one had somewhere away from the central nurses station where I could tuck myself with a computer and actually focus. It might not be perfect, but it's usually quieter, and that's what matters the most here when we are documenting. Full transparency, I actually consider myself an introverted extrovert or maybe an ambivert. Basically, when I'm in a social setting, I love to chat and I engage with anyone and everyone, patients, families, other nurses, environmental services, literally anyone. But on the flip side, I also need alone time to recharge. So at work, I found myself constantly talking and inserting myself into all kinds of social opportunities. And because of this, I actually had to implement this hack because it was essential for me to get out of work in time. Have you seen that meme or reel where there's a nurse charting at the computer and there's a sign on her back that's like, please don't talk to me. I need to chart and I have no self-control. That's me. So I learned to be intentional and I would tuck myself somewhere within earshot of my patients' rooms, but far enough away that I wasn't being pulled into every conversation. I'd knock out my charting, I'd get focused, and I'd actually make progress. Then once I was done, I would re-enter the world or civilization on the unit and go back to engaging with everyone. But I knew that if I didn't physically remove myself to chart, it wasn't going to happen, at least not in a timely fashion. Now, here's another charting hack that pairs really well with this one. It's kind of crazy, bear with me, but chart while you're in the patient's room at their bedside. This does a few things. First, it gets charting done in real time, which is so great. Your patient is literally right in front of you. So if you're charting a wound while you're literally looking at it, that documentation is going to be perfect. No guessing later, no trying to remember the details hour down the line or down the road, or returning to your patient's room because you can't remember what the left lower lobe of their lung sounded like. That literally, I can't tell you how many times this happened to me. But also with this, the patient perceives that you're spending more time with them because, I mean, honestly, you are. Although it doesn't feel like extra time to you because you're completing something that you already need to do. So you're in the room, you're charting, and you're staying there while you're charting. You're getting done what you need to get done. And the patient thinks, oh my gosh, this nurse has spent so much time with me. So you're multitasking in a way that actually works. Both of these charting strategies help you to finish your documentation earlier, stay organized, and most importantly, get out of work on time. Because let's be honest, getting out of work on time is actually what really matters and is a big motivator here. Your time outside of work is far more precious than your time here at work. And anything that protects that time is absolutely worth implementing. Hack number 4, get a fun PRN job, not just more shifts at your main job. So this hack is really for when you're starting to feel ready for maybe a new nursing experience, or when you want the ability to make more money without completely burning yourself out. So this is where PRN jobs or per diem jobs come into play. And honestly, they can be really fun if you do them right. A lot of nurses, though, just typically default to picking up extra shifts at their main job. And yes, on paper, that makes sense. You already know the unit, you know the workflow, you might even be thinking about overtime pay. But here is the reality. That's burnout territory. And not only that, but I actually learned the hard way that picking up extra shifts at your primary job doesn't always work out the way that you expected to. There were so many times where I agreed to stay late or pick up an extra shift because it would hypothetically put me at 44 or 48 hours for the week instead of my usual 36. So I would get overtime, right? But then my next scheduled shift, they would call me off or send me home early. So instead of working more hours, I actually sometimes even ended up working less. And it was wildly frustrating because I had student loans to pay off. If this has happened to you, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if it hasn't yet, here's why it happens. Most hospitals use staffing grids or policies based on patient volume. And if the unit is overstaffed or the patient census drops, nurses get called off. And typically the first ones that are called off are the ones that are going to hit overtime for the week, because that is what makes the most sense financially from the hospital standpoint. And that happened to me so much early on in my career. So eventually I decided to get a PRN job somewhere else. Now, here is where I made the mistake. I took a PRN job at a nursing home. The pay was actually great, but the job itself was hell. All I did was pass meds from the second I clocked in to the second that I clocked out. And because I had my BSN, I was considered in charge of the entire facility on night shift, which was honestly terrifying considering I had been maybe a nurse for 5 minutes. I had very little experience. So being in charge of everything was really scary to me. So it was actually stressful. It was overwhelming, and it definitely was not fun. Looking back, I wish I had implemented this version of the hack instead. Get a PRN job that actually feels interesting or enjoyable. And yes, those jobs exist. One of my nurse besties, Ashley, if you're listening to this, I love you. She landed a perfect PRN job while we were both working in the ER. She became a traveling IV nurse. And when I say traveling, she still was local, okay? So many nursing homes and facilities use third-party companies for IV insertions. And her role was to cover a specific territory and place IVs as needed. Here's the best part. She was paid whether she placed an IV or not. And when she did place one, she made extra money. As ER nurses, we placed IVs all the time. So getting paid well to do something that she was already very excellent at without being stuck on a unit was such a huge win. She loved the autonomy. She loved being in her car. She loved the flexibility, and she made great money doing it. So that's the kind of PRN job that I'm talking about here. Now, my mother is a retired nurse. She used to work as a PRN nurse at a nearby camp for kids with special needs. She used to also be a PRN nurse and call post-operative patients on the weekends from home just to check on them after surgery. And she literally made great money in both of these side gigs. So there are many creative, non-traditional PRN nursing roles out there. It might take some digging and research, but this approach allows you to explore new sides of nursing, build different skills, and increase your income without living at your primary job and basically headed straight for burnout. That balance is everything. Okay, moving on to hack number 5. Break your shift into smaller blocks of time. This hack is all about compartmentalizing your shift so it feels manageable instead of overwhelming. I recommend breaking your shift into smaller sections. Usually 4-hour blocks works nice because most of us work 8 hours or 12 hours. And this is one of the best ways to stay on top of your work during a busy shift instead of feeling like you're drowning at the end of the shift trying to catch up on everything that needs to be done or documented. So let's use a 12-hour shift as an example. If you work days, you might break your shift into blocks like 7 to 11A, 11A to 3P, 3P to 7P. Now for each block, create a clear checklist of what needs to be accomplished during that time. For example, your 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. checklist might look like getting report, obviously, passing your morning meds, completing a head-to-toe assessment, charting that head-to-toe assessment, completing any required documentation. And when that 4-hour block is up, check in with yourself. Did you get those things done for all of your patients? If not, what is still outstanding? I personally liked using a physical checklist for this. It helped me remember tasks for each time frame and made it easier to stay organized. You can even build this into your report sheet so it becomes part of your routine. And I hear this all the time, especially from new grad nurses or nurses working in fast-paced environments like med-surg. I feel so overwhelmed. I'm constantly behind. I never leave work on time. Think of these time blocks as built-in check-ins throughout your shift. They help you stay focused, prioritize tasks, and recognize early when something is falling behind before it snowballs. One thing I've learned over the years is how important it is to stay on top of your work as you go. If you wait until the end of your shift to chart, I'm telling you, something will inevitably happen. A patient decompensates. An admission shows up. A discharge takes longer than expected. And suddenly you're overwhelmed and charting well past your scheduled time to leave. Breaking your shift into sections helps prevent that. Depending on your unit and your environment, take some time to think through what tasks realistically need to happen in each block. And this approach allows you to prioritize, stay organized, and pivot more easily when something unexpected comes up. And let's be honest, that always happens in nursing. When you use this strategy consistently, your shift feels more controlled, it feels less chaotic, and much more manageable, which is great for stress. All right, hack number 6, network with other nurses on other units. Okay, I know this one might make you roll your eyes, but hear me out. Even once you land a nursing job, the networking should not stop. Networking is the most overlooked part of professional growth, in my opinion. And when I say networking, I don't mean handing out business cards to your coworkers or doing anything awkward or forced. What I really mean is build relationships and be mindful of your professional reputation when you're on the job. Here are a few really simple ways to do that. If your patient is being transferred to another unit and you have the ability to go with your patient to help settle them on another unit, do it. Help settle the patient into their new room. The nurses on other units will notice that and they will appreciate it more than you might realize. When you're calling to give report, don't be afraid to take a few extra seconds to connect with the person on the other line. Ask them how their day is going or how they're handling the current full moon. Because let's be honest, we all know when it's a full moon, a little bit of humanity goes a long way. And remember, the nurse on the other end of the phone call is probably just as busy as you are. So taking a moment to recognize that they're humans too matters so much. At the end of the day, we're all on the same team. Nursing only works when we all work together, and kindness goes a lot farther than frustration ever will. That said, there's another layer to this, and it's important to acknowledge. Your reputation matters. And trust me when I tell you, people notice patterns. If you're consistently difficult to give report to, you're short-tempered, you're cranky, or rude to nurses on other units, that will be remembered and people talk. Not maliciously, but reputations form whether we intend them to or not. So instead of seeing report as a chore, I encourage you to flip the script and see it as an opportunity to be professional and to network. It's a great time to be kind, to make a good first impression. And honestly, I did this in my career early and it paid off. As a staff nurse, I was asked to be a part of the hiring committee for the new grad nurse residency program. I was invited to attend the Magnet conference in Florida as a new nurse. And those opportunities didn't happen by accident. They came from building a strong professional reputation over time. I also have a friend, Julia, who shared a great example of this. When she was a newer nurse, she made a point to connect with the ICU nurses and the resource nurse when her patients were transferred to higher acuity units. And the resource nurse would come to her floor. She said she would ask questions, she would build rapport with them, and she would show genuine interest in more acute patients. And eventually that networking actually helped her facilitate her transfer into the ICU. So none of this requires being fake or overly strategic. It's about being respectful, curious, and kind, and understanding the relationship that you build today can quietly shape the opportunities that you have tomorrow. Okay, hack number 7. Create a work practice that actually works for you. So this hack makes me think about nursing students when they ask for study tips. The biggest study tip I ever give to students is this: figure out how your brain learns best. Are you someone who can straight up memorize information, or are you a visual learner who understands concepts best through videos? Do you need repetition, writing things out, or teaching the material to someone else? When I was in nursing school, I remember making flashcards because all of my nurse friends were doing that and they were really smart. So I assumed that must be the best way to study. Well, spoiler alert, turns out that didn't work for me. Over time, I realized that I learned and retained information best by reading the material, writing the material out, and then teaching the concept out loud. And often it was to myself. It was definitely a more labor-intensive workflow, but once I dialed into how I learned best, my grades improved significantly. That method worked for my brain. The same exact concept applies to your nursing practice. There is no right way to work a shift. What matters most is finding a workflow that supports you and allows you to deliver safe and effective care. So if using a paper report sheet with different ink colors helps you stay organized and on top of your patients and their conditions, go buy that multicolored pen that clips onto your badge reel. If you work best with a written schedule, take a few minutes after report to map out your shift on paper. Lean into what works for you. This might take some experimentation, and that's okay. Try different systems, even different report sheets. There are honestly so many out there, and they organize patients differently. And one of those might just click for you. Adjust as you go. And once you find the strategies that support your brain, you'll notice that your shift feels smoother, your stress levels decrease, and your patients often receive better care as a result. I also want to say, look at what your peers are doing. Some do things differently, and the way they do things might click with you more than what your preceptor has taught you. Okay, hack number 8, and that is use your education money for something actually exciting. So this is something that I actually never capitalized on, and honestly, I really wish that I had. When you're a staff nurse, most organizations actually allocate money per nurse per year to cover educational costs. This can include things like CEUs, certification courses, conferences, or even support toward furthering your degree. Here's the wild part. The money often goes completely unused. It also replenishes yearly. So many nurses either don't know it exists, don't know how to access it, or they assume it has to be used for something boring or overly formal. But here's where things get really fun. There are now incredible nursing educational opportunities that combine learning with travel, wellness, and actual enjoyment. For example, Nurse Blake hosts a conference on a cruise ship called NurseCon at Sea. You're earning nursing education credits here, so CEUs, while you're on a cruise with a bunch of other fun nurses. Another amazing option is that my friend Nicole Johnson actually hosts retreats for nurses, and she brings them to places like Sayulita, Mexico, and other beautiful destinations where nursing education is blended with yoga, meditation, beach time, and real rest. If this piques your interest, I highly recommend that you check out episode 33 titled Maybe a Nurse Retreat is Exactly What You Need. I had Nicole on the podcast and we talked all about her retreats, the education component, and why these experiences can be so impactful. She also informed me that Kaiser nurses often get the entire thing covered through that education fund. There are so many perks built into the staff role that I don't think most nurses are aware of or take advantage of, and education money is a big one. So instead of letting that money sit there unused, take a minute to explore your options. Ask your manager or educator what's available. Look into conferences, retreats, and certifications that actually excite you. Take that education money and do something fun, something restorative, or even inspiring with it. It's honestly your money and you earned it. Hack number 9. This one is use your EAP. It's there for a reason. So this hack kind of piggybacks off of the last one because I truly don't think nurses take advantage of all of the perks offered by their employers. And one that is often overlooked is EAP, which stands for Employee Assistance Program. Most hospitals and healthcare organizations offer EAP, which typically includes a set number of free counseling sessions for employees. These sessions can be used for so many different things and so many different reasons. It doesn't have to necessarily be nursing related or job related. But, if you lost your first patient, you can talk it out with EAP. If you want to quit smoking, talk it out with EAP. Struggling with imposter syndrome or with nursing in general, talk it out with EAP. Dealing with a challenging coworker or toxic work dynamic, talk it out with EAP. This resource is there to support you as a human, not just as a nurse. And I really want to be clear about something important when it comes to EAP. It's not the same as HR. And using EAP does not mean you're reporting something to management. Honestly, it's confidential and your manager will not be notified if you use it. No one on your unit will know. And I bring this up because I genuinely believe that as nurses, we internalize so much. We work in incredibly high stress environments. We witness difficult things. We carry emotional weight shift after shift. And on top of that, we're constantly adapting to new workflows, new expectations, new stressors, and it takes a toll. Resilience isn't about pretending everything is fine. It's about having tools to process what you're carrying. Nursing will test you in ways that you don't always expect, but you're not meant to go through it alone. And you don't get any bonus points for suffering silently. So if you've never used EAP benefits, consider this as your reminder. It's there for you. It's part of your compensation, and using it is not a weakness. It's self-awareness. So don't forget about it and don't be afraid to use it. All right. Hack number 10, build in things that naturally lift your energy. So this last hack is all about intentionally incorporating things into your shift that naturally energize you. Things that lift your mood or wake you up or remind you that you're human and not a robot. My friend Julia, who worked night shift for the majority of her career, always chose the stairs every time, no matter where she was going. She said it boosted her energy, it made her feel healthier, and helped her wake up during long nights. When I worked long hours in the ER, my thing was getting outside, usually through the ambulance bay, not going to lie. I would take just a few minutes, I would step outside, and I would get some sunlight or fresh air. And honestly, it was so refreshing. It just made me feel like I was less of a prisoner in my workplace. And it was a reminder that I was lucky to be here and that I had the freedom to step away briefly and that the little things really do matter. At one of my old hospitals, The ICU even had an outdoor area specifically for staff to eat lunch and take breaks. And even a small amount of vitamin D and movement can make such a noticeable difference in how you feel during a shift. And before someone says, I don't have time to step outside for 5 minutes, or I don't have time to take the stairs instead of the elevator, yes, you do. Let me tell you a quick story. When I was the assistant nurse manager of a pediatric ER at a large hospital level 1 trauma center, we decided to create a staff wellness challenge, and it was so fun. We divided the staff. We did all nursing staff and medical providers. We divided everyone into teams, and we set step goals, and we did other movement goals, and even created a Facebook page where people could post pictures of themselves exercising. We knew it was unrealistic for people to get to the gym on days that they worked long hours, so we created a stair challenge for the people that were at work. And it was over 10 flights of stairs. And if you made it to the top, you earned 1 point. And let me tell you, everyone suddenly found themselves at the top of the stairwell. They found time to slip away, and they would be smiling, a little sweaty, but they loved it. And the staff started pairing up with other teammates and scheduling times to climb the stairs together to motivate each other. And guess what? The patients were fine. The unit still ran beautifully, and staff morale was noticeably better. So here's your reminder: movement matters, fresh air matters, vitamin D matters, and you don't need a full workout or a long break to feel the benefits. Find small ways to incorporate things that lift you up: taking the stairs, stepping outside for a few minutes, stretching, or moving your body intentionally during your shift. Your energy will thank you. Your mood will thank you. And you will be so grateful that you made space for it. I know I always did. As we wrap up today, I want you to remember this. None of these hacks are about doing more, being perfect, or squeezing every ounce of productivity out of yourself. They're about working smarter, protecting your energy, and making bedside nursing feel more sustainable. Whether it's picking up shifts strategically, finding systems that work for your brain, using the resources your employer already offers, or simply stepping outside for 5 minutes of fresh air, these small changes add up. You don't need to implement all 10 at once. Even choosing 1 or 2 that resonate with you can completely change how your shift feels. Nursing is demanding, and it will ask so much of you, but your career doesn't have to feel like you're in constant survival mode. You're allowed to be strategic. You're allowed to prioritize your own well-being, and you're allowed to create a version of bedside life that actually works for you. And honestly, that's what this whole episode was really about. If this episode was helpful, I would be so grateful if you took a moment to follow the show, to rate it, or leave a quick review. Those small actions truly help this podcast reach more nurses who need support or need reassurance or just some real life guidance. And if you know another nurse who could use a few bedside hacks, share this episode with them. That's how this community grows, nurse to nurse. Thank you so much for being here, for trusting me with your time, and for showing up for yourself and for your patients every single day. As always, I have one hand for me and the other for you. Signing off.
Well, that's it for today's episode of Life After Nursing School. I hope you feel more confident and ready to tackle the challenges that come with starting your nursing career. Remember, the first year or 2 might not be easy, but with the right mindset, you can overcome anything. If you found value in today's episode, I'd love for you to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a future episode. Also, please consider leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform. It helps so much in reaching other new nurses like you. Thanks for listening, and remember, you've got this. Take care and see you next time.